Well, there have been many promises, haven't there, to arm those on the battlefield against gender-based violence, but have the much-needed resources actually reach those on the ground who have to do the job? Well, let's find out. Senior reporter Aviwe Mtila is there for us. It comes as the Gauteng government holds what is a two-day GBV and femicide report-back summit. Aviwe, hello to you. And there's always multiple issues when it comes to dealing with GBV, but far be it from anyone to say that the resources are probably at the pinpoint, the sharp end of the problem. We all know what needs to be done. The problem is the resources aren't there, are they?
It's the resources that are very needed, as we do understand, of course, that women and children are the most vulnerable in the country. That's, of course, according to the crime stats, shocking crime statistics that we saw even in the first quarter. The first 3 months of this year showed that at least 14,000 sexual offences were committed, and 10,000 of those were actually rape cases. Hence now we have this gender-based violence and femicide summit that's set to kick off at around 9 o'clock today. But just to bring in some activists on this issue, I am joined by Hilary Leong from Africa Act, as well as Matthew. Thank you for joining us at ENCA. But I guess the big question that I want to start with, Hilary, is what will this summit do to actually change the scourge of gender-based violence that we're seeing on the ground here?
So the summit will bring about a greater awareness for action, for a call to action to take place, so that there are tangible results and not just all talk, but that there will be action so that there can be a difference made to break these horrendous cycles of gender-based violence.
Matthew, I want to bring you as well in this conversation, and also focusing on the summit. I want to know, maybe when Africa Act was alerted of the summit, will we see similar organizations coming in here to actually impact the change that we need on the ground?
Well, I mean, we really welcome this. I mean, for us that works on the ground throughout, this is some of the things that is needed. But as Hilary said, rightly said, it doesn't mean anything unless there's actually action behind all the talks. You know, you can see this is a very nice setup, really big setup, but, you know, what is will come afterwards, you know. And there is, as you mentioned before, there are so many women that are suffering as we speak from gender-based violence. Femicide has gone up, gender-based violence has gone up, rape has gone up, and we need to do something tangible about it right now. And, for example, for us, next month we are doing our second installment of the gender-based violence conference for men, because the conversation should be as well, like I'm sure you will see today as well, majority of people that will be here will be women, and it should be the opposite. You know, it should be men that should be here, listen to what's been said, and actually do some active things, you know, to stop this cycle of this horrendous wave of violence against women that's been going on for way too long.
Okay, Hilary, I want to bring you back in and talk about the reality that you see on the ground. I mean, I spoke of some of those stats, 10,000 women raped just in the first 3 months of this year. How's the picture looking like as a person that deals with these issues on a daily basis?
It is a very, very dark picture. I can speak of a very current case of a young girl that was raped, and as a result, as was impregnated. She can't afford to keep the baby. She's just given birth. ACT Africa is walking this road with her for the next steps in you know, doing the right thing as opposed to abandoning the baby, which also brings about a myriad of problems, including trafficking. And to protect the baby, we have got social development involved. So the social workers and everybody are all engaged in this case. But again, it stemmed from gender-based violence. She was raped, and through feeling ashamed, she did not report it. So hence we're walking this road with her again, and she's just given birth.
And that's an important issue that I want to touch with Matthew again. These cases that, the 10,000 rapes, for example, in the first quarter, are matters that have actually been reported. There are many more that aren't reported, and I'm sure you deal with those cases. What needs to be done then going forward, and what does this summit need to address?
You know, one of the things that is very important is to ensure that women get the right support. A lot of times they feel very, very alone, even to just go and report it. I mean, like years back, we went with the Deputy Minister of Education, Deputy Minister of Justice, to visit some of these different police stations unannounced, and to see what measurements they had in place for if you came in to report rape or gender-based violence case. And we're hoping that some of these things that's been put in place are actually gone into activation, because otherwise, we're not going to get far with these talks unless that the things have been implemented, and really, it's very shameful that we are living in a society in 2022 where you have 10,000 rapes. I mean, in one country in 1 year, not even throughout the year, and be a world capital of rape. I mean, that should be very shameful. And the question should also be to us men: are we comfortable with living in a society like that? What are we going to do? How are we going to push forward, even with our peers, to make sure we stop this kind of, because it's not about what's being said here. If we don't implement it ourselves, personal men on ground, we have to play our part as well,
All right, thank you very much, Africa Act. Thank you very much. Of course, ahead of that summit that deals with the scourge that's really out of hand, Gareth, of gender-based violence and femicide, expected to kick off at 10 o'clock here with the Premier giving the keynote address, Gauteng Premier David Makura, but also we're expecting the Provincial Commissioner of the Police, General Elias Mawela, to deliver those shocking crime stats. Of course, we know in the first quarter, more than 10,000 rapes happening in the country, and those are just the reported rapes.
And that's the problem. It's the reported rapes, isn't it? And those that go unreported, and the reasons why they're going unreported, which I'm sure this report back will unpack and discuss for us as well. I'm sure we'll come back to you again later in the day. Aviwe Mtila, ENCA reporter, on that for us here on ENCA.